guys, welcome back to Liking Hiking, back in the real world. Anyway, so today I'm going to do for you guys a gear that I finished the Thru-Hike with video, but I'm also going to be recording some extra details for later gear reviews on specific items, so keep an eye out for that. If there's anything you want to know more about, just pop it in the comments down below. But hopefully the editing bit goes together well, so I apologize if anything seems a little bit like jumpy or doesn't flow well, but hopefully I can get everything down while I'm still freshly finished. Like I literally came home like 2 days ago, and you guys get a real good reviews on the stuff that I finished with. So yeah, there should be a series of videos coming soon, but this one is basically all about just the gear I finished with compared to what I started with, what I replaced it, and why. So let's get into it. So here's my pack. I haven't even unpacked really, so which is really good because then you get everything, and that's why I want to do this video, so I can unpack and put it all away. But anyway, so gear I finished with is my Z-Pack Duplex, which I started with. However, I did replace the stuff sack with a thicker, more durable stuff sack, which I am so glad I did, because this lived on the outside of my tent and I dragged it over mountains and down scree slopes and down muddy creeks and everywhere. And the Dyneema stuff sack just would not have survived on the outside. So I am so glad that I got this. So next off is trekking poles. The only thing, obviously I'm still finishing with the same trekking poles I started with, which is amazing, so they didn't bend. But the only thing I added was some duct tape. So originally Courtney was carrying duct tape and I wasn't. So when she went home, I did add some of my own. I mean, it is the gaffer tape, so it's easier to rip. And it just lived on the outside of my trekking pole and seems to be doing pretty well. I never had to use it, but it doesn't seem to have like melted together as much as the duct tape does. Anyway, so that's what I added, was just a bit of gaffer tape around my trekking pole. All right, also in the same pocket is my water stuff. Oh, actually, not all of it. More. So this bladder lived inside my pack, but we'll get to that in a minute. In terms of finishing with the same gear, the only thing I changed out was the Sawyer squeeze bag for this pump mini, which is 400 mils. Now, lots of people complain that the Sawyer bags split, so they have to change them out. That was not my problem. It actually got mold inside it, so that was disgusting. And because they are the 32 mil hole, I couldn't actually clean it out. So obviously I was using it for dirty water collection. No, I wasn't. I was using it for clean water, so the fact it went moldy was pretty bad. So yeah, I was not super keen on that, so I just switched out for this pump mini. I think this is my second one that I got for the South Island, so but they were super easy to find and just replace. And I kept the pop top cap on it because it was just easier to use than the other Sawyer caps and things like that. So also on the outside in the shoulder pouch, I had sunscreen, bug repellent, and sunnies. So I did change out my sunnies to a different pair, just because the other ones got so scratched up, and it came with this little like cloth case, super lightweight, and that has saved the sunnies. So I do recommend a little case for your sunnies, just to like keep them free from scratches and stuff, because they will get scratched up. So I definitely added that. Insect repellent I added right at the beginning of the hike and carried the entire time. This one was like the strongest Picardan one I could find, because it doesn't wreck your gear like the DEET stuff, but it didn't work as well as the DEET stuff, so I don't know. It's fine for mosquitoes, I think, but like sandflies, they're cruel beasts. And then obviously I got this food pouch for my sunscreen, which I've explained in quite a few of the videos, but basically I would just dip the bottle into here. It's lighter than a sunscreen bottle, but it was more so that I didn't waste sunscreen. I wasn't having to carry 2 bottles, that kind of thing. Yeah, so I did change a few things, but not really, all the same, essentially. All right, these three things have not changed at all. Washing line, dish, kitchen towel, and tent towel. The only thing that changed is probably what I use this towel for. So on the North Island, it was solely for drying my tent, which was a lifesaver. But on the South Island, it was for drying my tent, but I didn't use my tent as much. I also used it as my washcloth, just because I lost my other washcloth, which is very sad. But also wasn't using it for the tent as much, so I really didn't need it for that. So yeah, if you're staying in huts, probably wouldn't worry about having an extra towel at all. I really did consider maybe sending it home, but it just couldn't be bothered at that stage. But for the tent camping, it was definitely worthwhile. All right, also on the outside of my tent is Garmin and hand sanitizer. This did not change the entire hike. I carried them saying there's the same bottle, I just refilled it every time that I could get my hands on some sanitizer. And the Garmin was fantastic. So yeah, didn't change that setup at all. They hang on same pocket, same side of my bag the entire time. Hip belt pocket contents. So in terms of changing stuff, some of it I didn't change, it was changed where I kept it. So headphones I moved into hip belt pocket because some got broken in my, keeping them in my pocket. Earplugs I moved to hip belt pocket just because they were easier to find than in the other bag that I had them. Microphones also lived in there most of the time, except for when it was going to be real wet or potential river wetness. And a little mini first aid kit, which was like had stuff that you might need on hand really quickly. The antihistamine cream was amazing in there, just because I need to get it out for sandfly bites like pretty regularly. And the other thing I changed was instead of a liquid antiseptic, I went for a powder, just because this one is amazing for blisters as well. Plus doing all your antiseptic stuff that a cream would do. So this one dries out blisters, so that's a powder one. That's essentially all I changed in there. Another item of gear that I swapped out was my hat. When I got my new rain jacket, when I got my sun hoodie, I didn't need the wide brim hat with the back anymore. So I swapped it out for this Legionnaire hat that's super lightweight and just held my rain jacket up as well. And it was fine going through the wash. It's done the whole South Island. It survived. It's still looking pretty good. It's a hat. Something else I added was this super lightweight sit pad, because I got so sick of sitting on wet ground. So I wanted one for ages. I saw another hiker with one, but I couldn't find them in any stores. So it wasn't until like halfway through the South Island that I found one in like a $2 store. But anyway, having a sit pad or something to sit on was amazing. I was using like just a cut up piece of plastic for a while, which was like, I guess, the ultralight version. But this has a bit of padding and warmth to it, so it's a bit more comfy. So yeah, definitely, if it's gonna be wet, take a sit pad, because there is only so much sitting on wet ground that one person can take. So my lunch bag, didn't really change a lot in here at all. It's still got all the same stuff. How much I put in it and what I put in it changed a little bit, but that's about it. The only thing I would have to say is this fly net thing that I took for the whole trail. If I could change one thing, it would be don't take this. You never use it. The worst time for the mosquitoes and sandflies is when you're sitting still. The only time you're sitting still is when you're eating, and you can't eat with a fly net on, so it's just, I didn't use it the whole trail, but I still carried it. All right, we're on to some of the final gear on the outside. This was what I kept my rain gear in, and this was the only Dyneema stuff sack to survive on the outside of my pack, and I think that's because it was in the hip belt pocket the entire time, so it wasn't in the sun. I think the sun is the real killer. I meant not hip belt pocket, side pocket. So In terms of what I changed, rain gear, I switched for this longer, heavier duty rain jacket. My rain pants and rain mitts I didn't change out at all. The only thing I would have to say is the rain pants were great. The rain mitts are more for like when it's cold. I really didn't use them. I think I used them once. I just didn't feel the need to, because like even if I got a bit wet, it wasn't like I was getting cold and wet. But I think if you're doing a hike where cold and wet is a possibility, then rain mitts are really good. Otherwise, nah, but they're so lightweight. I just carried them the whole time. So, all right, down to the last few things on the outside of my bag. This is something I invented very early on. It's just a bungee with a little stopper. It actually came off of my Z-Packs bag just because it was for like the trekking pole holder option, which I chose, which I never used. So I did steal this bungee though and attach a carabiner to it. This was amazing. So I use this to strap my sandals on to my bag because when I switched to the Berkeys, I couldn't, there was no like loop or anything like that to attach them with a carabiner, so this bungee came in really helpful. Another thing I added along the way was a cooler cloth. If you're a girl and you pee outside in the woods, cannot recommend enough. It did take me a while to get over the like grossness factor, well, what I thought was gross, but just the speed of just being able to like put your pack down, grab this, go to the bathroom, come back, as opposed to worrying about toilet paper and packing it out and all that kind of stuff. This was a lifesaver just of convenience. Super easy to clean. Great, can't recommend it enough. Definitely don't regret adding this to my kit. And toilet bag, didn't change at all. Last but not least that was hanging on the outside of my pack was my camp shoes. So I did change from Tevas to Birkenstocks. These are so much lighter. The Tevas I thought I would actually hike in them, which is why I went for the heavier sandal in the beginning, but I did not, ever. So I switched them out for these Birkies, which are like super lightweight and super comfortable. They're easy to slip on with socks on. Oh, life is good. So many hikers ended up getting Birkies. So thanks Lauren and Christina for this idea. And yeah, these Birkies will be my camp shoes forever. I love them. Moving on to the inside of my pack. First things first is this pack liner. So I started with a cut down version of this and then went to the full size version pretty early on just because I did have the cut down version from my weekend hikes and it just wasn't quite big enough for the gear I had through hiking. Alright, this bag did not change pretty much at all the entire time. I just added a few extra things to my first aid kit, but it was more about gear first aid than people first aid. So, ooh, actually that's a lie. There is one people first aid kit thing that I added, which is this little cork massage ball. Thanks Courtney, this was a lifesaver. I used it almost every day. The easiest place to get them is online, just like eBay or whatever. They're quite cheap. I never ever saw one in store, so yeah. The other thing I added was some gear tape repair stuff. So it's supposed to repair tents, whatever. I probably wouldn't use it on my Dyneema tent, but it would be fine for using on like ripstop nylon backpacks and all that kind of thing. Just because after Courtney's tent leaking issue, I was just like, oh, I'm not taking any chances. I did use this to repair an Ultrasil stuff sack and it worked really well. The only thing is it's not super flexible, so on anything that like bends a lot, this is probably not the best, but anyway, it was still pretty good. The other thing that got added into here was the little caps for the bladder, the little bite valves. So they come in packs of 2, so I just kept another spare one in there. And I also added some cotton. So I didn't originally have cotton, but I definitely recommend taking some cotton thread My backup was just dental floss, but then when I had to repair my shirt, like this just wasn't, like dental floss just wasn't going to cut it. So yeah, definitely recommend adding some cotton into your first aid kit for your gear. But yeah, that's pretty much the only thing that ever changed about that. So this was my little tech bag that lived in my Dyneema stuff sacks for double waterproofing with the Ziplocs, and also just a little bit of extra organizing because it didn't stay waterproof for very long. I did not change anything in here at all, and I'm so glad I went with what I went with because it worked really well. This is my Toiletries bag. It's just an Ultra Seal stuff sack. It was actually the stuff sack my Thermalite came in. But it was a really good stuff sack. But basically, I did make some changes in here and I added a lot of stuff. So some of the highlights was some moisturizing cream, which I didn't start with, which if you're hiking in summer and you're going to get sunburnt, you need moisturizing cream. However, this 100-gram tube lasted the entire trail. So you might be better off before you start just getting like a little 50 ml bottle of something and squeezing some moisturizing cream into there. But very good for sunburn and like when it's like just hot, dry and windy. But yeah, 100 mils is a lot. That was the whole trip. So I have learned a hack for getting small little lightweight bottles is just like go in and get like hand sanitizer bottles because they're like 50 mils and you can just refill them with whatever you want. Yeah, so that's my hack, hand sanitizer bottles. You can get them in 50 ml ones or 100 ml ones. So way cheaper than getting the proper bottles. Like this little wilderness wash bottle. And 40 mils of wilderness wash lasted me for washing myself, I didn't really wash my dishes with it very often, I'm not gonna lie, but laundry I used it for a lot, and it lasted from Hamilton to the end, and there's still a tiny bit left, so, you know, 80 mils will definitely do a whole through hike. I did end up having to add some shampoo, just because my scalp did not cope with only Wilderness Wash's shampoo. But getting these little bottles was really cool. But as I said, definitely do the hand sanitizer bottle trick because they're lighter weight than these ones. And yeah, they're the perfect size. I also added some chafing cream, but I would recommend Gurney Goo over whatever this is. It's just something I managed to pick up along the way, but it was pretty rubbish and didn't really work. The Gurney Goo, though, I borrowed off of a couple of people. It worked a lot better. And I also, this is a tip for anyone who does want to shave along the trail, switched out just buying those cheap razors, which are super lightweight, but also are terrible, just for buying the heads of razors. So there was a few of us girls who were doing this. And basically you just get the head of the razor and you hold onto it and just, yeah, do your whole legs or whatever. So that was, yeah, a few of us ended up doing that. I got the tip off someone else. So definitely recommend that if you're someone who does like to shave on trail, as opposed to buying the cheap razors, because that was just terrible. But yeah, other than that, nothing else really changed in there. So I definitely just got heavier with all the products that I added to it, though. That was definitely the biggest weight increase. But I just found like there was just some things I just couldn't live without, and you get used to carrying the weight, so you go a little overboard. Food bag, did not change a thing. Loved it. That's all I have to say about that. My cook kit, nothing changed in here at all, except I did change out the scour a couple of times because it got a bit gross. But the stuff sack was like sort of starting to perish before I even started the trail, and it survived the whole time, so that was pretty good. This little piece of gear I added, and it's the hero of the gear show. It lasted so well. It was so cheap and it's so light. Clothes. I also made a lot of changes to my clothes along the way, and Basically, I added another shorts and tank top just so I could have another outfit at camp because the huts were so hot. I would probably send my dress home if I had that opportunity because I could have used the shorts and tank top instead. The shorts and tank top are much more versatile because you can pair shorts with a long sleeve top or my tank top with long merinos. So that was definitely a better option than a town dress per se, is maybe having a second set of camp clothes that's like shorts and tank top, especially in the summer because it was just too hot when I got to camp and cleaned up to put on my merinos. But the merinos were definitely used. The other thing I did change, which I've already talked about in some of my videos, is switching out my long sleeve sort of collared shirt, sorry, long sleeve collared shirt for a sun hoodie. Love the sun hoodie. If you're hiking where you're going to get sunburnt, sun hoodies are the best because you just flip them up. They cover you like a lot more better than the collared shirt. And also they are super cool and lightweight. So the other thing I could probably do without is maybe my down jacket. I could probably do a fleece rain jacket combination. And definitely I think I would probably go for a lighter weight fleece than what I have. Yeah, so that's pretty much the clothing. Sleep system, nothing changed in here. So would recommend everything. Sleeping bag liner has saved my sleeping bag. I can tell you that much. A pillow because I'm a queen. And I just can't sleep without an inflatable pillow. Stuff sack thing don't work for me. But, you know, works for a lot of people. So if that's you, lucky. My thermarest, loved it. Would not change it for the world. And a bag to keep it all in. So this is the Z-Packs are cool, and obviously I finished with the same bag that I started with, so I did not change that out. However, this bag has completely died and I will be looking for a new one. That's pretty much it. Anyway guys, that was the gear I've changed, gear I finished the Thru-Hike with video, and as always, keep on liking hiking.